G'day guys, to put my microphone, put it on there, that should work okay, I hope. Okay, this is a one which I see quite often, but I've never, chair just went straight down, gas lift chairs, Jesus. Okay, this one here, it's a GPX, I'm just having a look at, that's a 4500, and this one here has a busted screen, broken screen. The screen no longer works. So that's the screen, and that's the backlighting out of the screen. It's got a bit of dirt in it, but I had to cut this one out of circuit. I have got some spare screens, believe it or not. The screens, I got told by the supplier some years ago, were actually made for a display for a piece of audio equipment, and it depends how you drive it. You can make it say anything you want. So yeah, that's what it is. Anyway, here's a board. That's a screen board with a new screen in it. So it's all in there, all nice. But I know what happened to this detector. It was dropped. So that is a screen board, and if you actually buy the screen module like this, you will bleed out your eyes because it's very expensive. I don't recall exactly what they were, but they're damn expensive. And you'll never, ever properly unsolder all these. You have to get in here and cut the whole thing out. Then you've got to pull them out. Then you've got to solder suck it, clean it up, and then put your display in. So we have a display, and there's heaps of dirt in there too. I have to clean it. But the main thing is, how do we ever stop these displays? Now, I've also had some in other detectors up here, which have been replaced. Got sticky on it and bags stuck to it. That one there is stuffed. That doesn't work. That's been replaced with a new screen. I can't remember what that was out of. This one here, sticky as. That's one that blew up, stopped working as well. That's out of a 7000. So I replaced the 7000 screen as well. Most of these I don't keep. I throw them in the bin. So there was a pile of these over some years. But yeah, I removed them. Okay, how are we ever going to stop this happening again? Actually, quite simple. If you have a look on the detector, I hope I'm zoomed in enough. Hang on a sec, I'll just modify things here a little bit. And I can zoom in because I'm on the front camera. I'll just muck around here a little bit. Okay. On the detector, around here, where the board and screen mount, it has a bit of foam, that black bit, all around there. It's all foam. So when this is mounted, like so, it has 4 screws that screw in around there, like so. One there, one there, one there, one there. This thing here sits in here. Excuse my fat hand, as I'm going to show you how you get this out. When it's in there in the connector, this bit here, the plastic on the outside, is pushed down. I'll push it down just to do it properly. Now to get this out, you have to lift these little end bits up. Don't pull that way or that way, you'll break it. Stick your fingers there, feel it, and just click. About 2 millimeters. It goes up 2 millimeters. It'll drop the pressure off the back of this, and that will just pop out. So that's a connector strip, goes in there. And when you put it back in, you push it down. Anyway, we'll move on. So anyway, it's screwed in, and if you noticed that it screws down hard on these 4 plastic pillars. And when you drop your detector, the impact from these 4 pillars transfer into the board, and is very, very thin glass under this tiny bit of rubberized material. It's like painted on rubber. It's half a millimeter thick or something, and it breaks here. It just shatters into the glass via the leg contacts. And if you look at it, you peeled it back, it'd all be broken and trying little triangle-sized bits and lines, and it's stuffed. It don't work no more. This is a one I've replaced. It works. So we'll leave it there. I did have different colour displays too, but I've run out. I don't know where to get them from anymore. I had orange ones you could see in sunlight, and I only had a few of them, but gone. I think snowballed up very quickly. Anyway, we want to stop this from ever happening again. Now, you don't have a lot of clearance. What I do, you can see that that's just a piece of very soft, I think it's microphone cable or something. I've just chopped a bit off. Van Dam, it's actually got the number on it, 268 and then 100 dash 000. So it's audio cable. We use it, well, Chari uses it on something over there. Anyway, David's given her this stuff, so I've just chopped a bit off, and I'm pretty sure it could be headphone cable. I'm not really sure 100%, because I don't get involved in that. But if I get onto this and I just pull the guts out of it like so, you can see a little bit of spiral braid there, which is all over the place, and a red and blue wire. So it's shielded stereo, and we'll just pull that out. Make sure you pull all the shielding out like that as well. So you've got a hollow rubber tube. Now this rubber is soft, so I'm going to throw that in the bin. So that's a good thing. Now what I want to do, I'm going to get some very, actually use something over here, some sharp cutters. You want to get 8 of these, but very thin. So I'll just do it, I'll cut it on my post-it notes, which won't stay there because I have to push that rubber mat back a bit. And I'm going to use my 4 eyes to get in really close on this. But doing this, and you can do this on any of the detectors that have the displays screwed in hard. So any of the detectors that have the screws pushed in hard, get this here. Don't have to be accurate. You could probably use a guillotine and then use a stop, but something like this. It's actually harder to cut than I thought on that. Might have to go around that way. But bear with me on this. Okay, so what we want to do is just cut them into thin, there we go, thin little circles like that. Probably even thinner than that, but yeah. Unless you can find tiny little thin grommets, I don't know if they even exist. I've never seen them, but anyway, like I say, you don't know unless you go looking. But yeah, really you want these to be about a millimetre or so. Yeah, that's a nice one. So I should do a couple. Oh, cut's really easy, but you shouldn't be doing it on the post-it notes anyway. But I've done 3 of them anyway. Well, I've done 4, but the other one's a bit thick. I'll use these thinner ones. These are very thin, and this is probably the best way to do it. And basically, you're going to get one of these, put on the screw like slide it up the thread. Hopefully it goes up the thread. If it doesn't fit, use the next size up of cable. Yeah, it's just biting on the thread a bit, that's all right. No big deal. So what I would do, I'd do all my screw heads, as you can see that, get a little bit of rubberized outside of the cable on them. There you go. I think that's pretty clear. And when you put your board down, you could probably just, we'll just do one here. It's a very tight fit on these boards. If you have a look here, it's oh, there we go. Try that. Yeah, it's really hard. You actually got to, it catches on the threads. That's all right, no big deal. So you could probably, because this is tight, you have to do all 4 of them, by the way. So I'll just screw this one up the threads as well, so I can show you. So basically, in here, see that? I've got a black one under the screw head, and I've got another bit of black one at the bottom. We do that on all 4 of them. I'm not going to go and chop all 4 right now and make a video out of it because it's a bit crazy doing so. But if you line these up where they meant to go in the holes there, and line it up, hopefully it's lined up. And when you screw these down, you don't have to do it so tight that there's no give. So if you have a look at that, the way that's done, try that. I'll look in the back of the phone to see what I'm pointing at. If you see that there, it's got a lot of shock absorption on the screw, top and bottom, so the pillar can't transmit hard, instantaneous, glass shattering force through that point anymore. And if you do the rest of them, and it's all a little bit, you don't have to worry about it move. Even if it moves a little bit, who cares? You know, you can still read the display, but it's not really, it's a dirty detector. So basically, that's how you would stop your display ever breaking if you dropped it. Now, I would say 5 out of 10 times a detector falls over and hits the hard ground. I'm not talking about soft dirt, but if you lean your detector up with balance it on the coil and it falls over sideways and goes whack on the control box and hits something hard, it'll break the display. I've seen so many of them that it's quite common. So if you drop your detector, be careful. It can break the displays. So that's a quick and easy way of doing it. You know, any cable, except my oscilloscope lead was just about ready to fall into the soldering iron stand, which wouldn't have been too good. Would have been smelling some awful smelling burning plastic. But that's how you do it. So you could look at that on anything actually. Anything that's really screwed down. I wouldn't worry about the outside part of your detector and that there. But, you know, you could, if you really wanted to, you could do it and rubberize it around, but don't do it on the inside of the detector because that's where your ground is. This touches onto the case and makes it all nice and sealed and stops interference getting in. Interference runs up your coil cables. Do you know that? I'll tell you that. So acts as an antenna, and the other part of the antenna is your battery cables. So if this isn't hard on, it will get in. It'll just, whole thing will energize and it'd be horrible. So it will make the detector possibly more noisy, especially for a big coil, we have found out. So doing that is an easy way to save your display. from ever getting um, whacked. Now, I will tell you another thing I found. This is a doozy. This little module here, module. Okay, I'm gonna have to get something to point at. How about a screwdriver? Okay, this thing here, that there, that is a crystal oscillator. And what happens with these? You get a very fine wafer in there on very, very tiny spring type wires that are like thinner than a human hair, holding a very fine ground piece of silvered or gold metallized quartz. And I mean thinner than a sheet of paper, really, really thin. And if you get these, and I've had this happen before, right? The detector gets a real bang on it. It can actually break the quartz oscillator. It'll break a leg off or do something nasty to the quartz wafer, and it won't oscillate anymore. Then you won't have a display either. So, and you probably lose other functionality too. So the that there is quite important to keep that from any hard shocks. They can break. That they can handle a lot of G forces and so forth, as in acceleration. It's the sudden uh, hit and stop of an impact that wrecks them. So they can stuff up. Also, the other thing too in any of these detectors is the main time-based crystal in the detector, which lives right there. You can see that there's a little can thing there. If you belt that hard enough too, that'll break inside because it's a quartz crystal, and it's a wafer again held on two very, very fine legs of wire, and you whack that hard and it'll break. It's thinner than an old glass light bulb, much thinner. So be careful of giving these detectors any sort of hard impact, because a hard impact will either break the display and it can stuff the crystals up. So you can lose your oscillator here. If you lost this here, you'd lose all functionality in the detector totally, because the microprocessor is not controlling anything. Nothing will turn on at all. I have never done it to find out what it does if that actually happens, but it is quite possible to break these. We did have a detector that came off a quad bike at high speed, and yes, it's a very famous name, but we won't use the last name. Just think of WA and the mining on a quad bike. Dropped the detector off at high speed, and as memory serves me, I think it went straight into a tree. The detector was stuffed. It broke all the plastic and everything. And we tried to get the board going, and it just could not get it going no matter what we did. It must have had a lot of internal breaks inside the multi-layer boards. It never, ever, ever come to life. It just didn't do anything. So, and I have actually had detectors in the past, of all things, some of, I think 14 and 16 leg chips at the back of the board. I had this detector and I couldn't work out what was going on. This is ridiculous. It doesn't read right. And one of the ICs was physically fractured through the IC, through the whole IC. And I unsoldered it and it fell in half. Worked that one out. I've never seen that before. I've only found one like that. But, sharp jarring of these microprocessors, audio processor or co-processor, whatever you want to call it there, the main one. Those things have, I think that one there's got 256 legs on it, and there's not much solder holding them down per leg onto the board. They're all machine soldered, well, not machine soldered, they're all oven soldered with a paste, and some of them may not stick down very well, and the slightest impact can break them, and they're now floating, touching and not touching, and get all these weird faults, and you'll never track it down in most cases. But I did have one. I did a video on it where I put a paste around the IC and re-hot air flowed the solder around the IC, and actually fixed it. So, but that's probably about 100 videos ago. So that's that. Yeah, this detector is a bit of a hybrid too. I've just noticed on the front, it's got the old pinned connector. That's really early, and on the back of it, it's got the push-in Mylar type. So yeah, usually they're both the same, not one and the other. They're either the pin type connector or the push-in. So this is a hybrid. How that happened, it must have had some of these already done, put the pins in and did the other one with that. I don't know. I say it wasn't there, don't know. But anyway, that's how you do these detectors if you want to protect it from destroying displays. And any of the detectors that have a screw-on mount, they're usually down hard, and that just transmits impact vibration straight through the circuit board. And yeah, the weakest link is the very thin glass the display is made out of, and it can fail. And also that little quartz oscillator there, which I think from memory is 24 megahertz. I'm not sure. I looked once, probably 10 years ago, and haven't looked ever again. Actually, I might as well just have a look and tell you if I'm right or not. I screwed it in, didn't I? Dear. Okay, let's have a look. No, it's 12 megahertz. There you go. I doubled my assumption. So yeah, 12 megahertz crystal. That one there is either 4 or 8. I think it could be 4. Might be 8. I don't know. It's all covered in white paint. I can go and measure it. There's no need to. But anyway, just so you know, even if it was an 8 meg crystal, sometimes these will work with a 4 meg crystal in there. It'll work. It will just want to work on the second harmonic because of the capacitors connected to the crystal and the loading. Funny that. I used to do that with a lot of overtone crystals when I used to use multipliers and stuff like that. I used to make crystals, work up to about 7 times their fundamental frequency. A little bit of trickery and getting them to oscillate just with a bit of circuit change. So they will, most cases, you can make them work on their harmonics. Second and third one's easier than the even, by the way. But yeah, you have to really want to do it. But that is a quick and easy bit of preventative maintenance that you can do on these detectors to keep them going and going and going, because I guarantee you one day you will, or someone, not you as in you, but someone is going to drop their detector, and if I've got no displays and Minelab don't have any displays, and I can't remember the name of the company who was supplying them. I think probably now they get it done themselves, but early on they were getting them off the distributor. So someone down Box Hill or somewhere, or Mitcham or somewhere like that, from memory. None of Wadding, I think the name. Well, around there, I just can't remember the name of it. But anyway, you know who you are if you're watching. So yeah, that's a good way to protect these. Yeah, I can't really elaborate on that anymore. Just get some of the stuff, pull the guts out of it, turn to thin slivers and stick it on the screws. So, and don't tighten them down. If you tighten them down too hard, you're just making a transmission path for impacts. Just leave it loose. This thing doesn't really care if it's like, a bit wobbly. Like think of it, mount it like a shock absorber on a car sort of thing. So it just absorbs impacts. Don't do it too tight. There's no need to. These screws won't wobble loose. They go into the plastic, and it's a very tight thread. So I wouldn't worry about that. If you're really worried, you put a dab of silicone on it to the board so it won't come off. But you're dampening all the vibrations, stop they move. Anyway, and I've done a few detectors like that for people with busted displays, because my thoughts are, if you did it once, you're going to do it again, because of the mechanism of it happening. You might go and lean it up against a car again and let it fall over. I don't know, but yeah, it's a lot of mucking around, a lot of work. You don't want to do it to everyone's detector. I'd never get anything done. But to be doing all sort of ancillary stuff, like I was saying on those older detectors that around the capacitors, they go yellow. See this thing here, even though it's fairly old as well, there's no yellowing around the capacitors at all on this one. I was just mentioning that in the last video about replacing the capacitors if they're vented out and they're low value. You can replace them, or you can actually get bigger capacity capacitors in the same package now. So instead of whatever they are, like what are they, 3300 or 2200, you can probably get 5600 to fit in there. The more capacity you have on the transmit stage, hold the current up, the better. Okay, make sure they're low ESR capacitors, not some. I won't say the name, the manufacturer of some capacitors that say they're very very high value, but yeah, they've got as much impedance as a chook feather. I'm saying that politely. Basically, it just means the ability to hold a charge and not get ripped around and like it's not holding. How do we explain impedance? An easy way of doing it. Basically, low series resistance type capacitors that the capacitance you've got there is real. The wires on the bottom of the capacitor are thick enough to supply the current demand if it's pulled upon. That's basically it. And the plates are done properly. They're the electrolytes right for the job and everything. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. Just low ESR type capacitors, and that's the way to go. And if you want to be really, really good, get Panasonic capacitors, which are usually low ESR, and have a look on the spec sheets. They will designate them as low ESR type capacitors. Don't go and put rubbery old, Asian capacitors in there. Because they even though probably got the right amount of microfarads written on it, you won't be able to get the current out of it quick enough. That's what I'm trying to get at, because the transmitter turns on and goes, oh, I want all that current right now, and the capacitor goes, oh no, and the voltage collapses, and yeah, it makes a mess, and you get a horrible weak falling away transmit waveform, which can also, I've noticed, upset ground balancing. But anyway, we won't get into that either just yet. So anyway, that's enough. I'm going to go and brew some kava up actually, and chill out, watch a movie or something. Anyway, catches.